Hi! I wanted to do a beginner's guide for the very early portions of Elden Ring to maybe help out people who are having a little bit of trouble just getting started, or, maybe they're nervous about getting started in this game. And I feel like a lot of the guides are from people who've been playing like Souls-like games for years and years and years, and are very, very good at these. Elden Ring was my first Souls-like game. This will be kicking off probably my fifth-ish playthrough of it, so I'm not super experienced in this genre. Pretty knowledgeable about the game, but execution-wise, I'm not great. So while there are lots of guides out there from people who are very good at Elden Ring, I wanted to put a guide in there from someone who isn't, someone who's been playing Dark Souls for the past 15 years. Just to show that it's really not that bad, even if you are new to this genre. And what this is going to be is an early game run through all the way up to the first major boss, Margit the Fell. This is not going to be a speed run. I'm not going to show you how to get there quickly. I'm going to show you how to get there by being thorough and cautious and getting your character better little by little, so that by the time you get to him, he's a piece of cake. I want the editing to be pretty minimal here, just so kind of you get an idea of how to get from point A to point B to either reach a certain boss or get a certain item. So it'll be pretty complete from that perspective. TBD how thorough the narration is going to be over this, or whether or not I'll just let the scenery take over for stretches of it. We'll see how it goes. But by the end of it, you should have a character who is relatively well situated to easily handle Margit the Fell. That's the goal, and I hope it's helpful for some of you. And with that little intro there, I completely talked right over character creation. But we're making the missing member of the Golden Lineage, Godefric, who is a prophet, and for the keepsake, I went with the crackpots. So if you're unfamiliar with the game, crackpots are a reusable craftable item. So you basically refill them with various recipes, and you can use them as thrown attack weapons. Ingredients are pretty easy to come by for the most part, some rarer than others. I'm just giving them a shot because I never actually have taken them in the early game before as a keepsake. So just going to try those out and see how it goes. The Golden Seed is another keepsake choice. It's really good for beginners. It gives you more heals early on in the game is essentially what it does. And your keepsake really only affects the early game. You can get to the same maximum number of pots and maximum number of healing charges irrespective of what you take for your keepsake, but Golden Seed and Crackpots are two solid choices at the beginning there.
Horaloo, chieftain of the Badlands, the ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion, the loathsome dung-eater, and Sir Gideon Ofnir, the all-knowing. And one other, whom grace would again bless. A tarnished of no renown. Cross the fog to the lands between. To stand before the Elden Ring. And become the Elden Lord.
All right. So we have come across the fog from where it's kind of unclear. It's kind of, I'm sure some lore video somewhere has answered that question from where we've come across the fog from. But we're here in this kind of chapel of anticipation area, and just gonna step outside here and run across the desolation of this particular area until we get to a boss arena. If you've never played the game before, or you've never seen anyone streaming it, what's coming up here is a scripted death. You're running into a boss. You aren't expected to beat him, certainly not on your first try, but even if you do manage to pull it out, the game still kills you. So you don't need to sweat it too much, just run in, try your best, and, one way or another, lose. I actually stance breaking here. I don't even know if that's ever really happened before with me. But, it doesn't really matter. He's got me down most of the way in terms of health, and I've barely dented his, so we die. And it's okay. And that's kind of one of the first lessons of Elden Ring, is that it's okay to die.
Don't worry, Torrent. Fortune is on his side. We found him here, after all. One of his kind is sure to seek the Elden Ring. Even if it does violate the Golden Order.
So we start off in this little area called the Stranded Graveyard, and if you've never played the game before, I recommend heading a little over to the right, jumping down the cliffs, and going through the tutorial area like I'm going to do right here. So I'm going to edit the tutorial a little bit just because it is not the most compelling gameplay footage to watch, but there are a couple tricks you should take the time to learn while you're running through this. And by tricks, I just mean real basic controls. So the first one is locking on, which I have bound to the right stick button. Not sure if that's default or not. But clicking on right stick, running up to people and hitting them with either the right 1 or right 2 button to do a light attack or heavy attack respectively is the simplest way to attack people. We also start off with a shield, so learning to cower behind your shield by pressing L1 as you run past enemies is a very good tool for adventurers to learn. We'll also learn how to guard counter with that shield, which is the easier alternative to parrying. Holding down R2 gives you charged heavy attacks. Just hold it down until your character attacks. These inflict a lot of stance damage and can also break the guard of shield bearers like the tower shield guy here. And then once you have someone's guard broken, you just lightly tap R1, and that'll inflict a critical hit to do a ton of damage to them. And that's tapping R1, not holding it down. Same thing applies when you're sneaking up on someone. Just get behind them. When you're sneaking, tap R1, and you'll do a little sneak attack critical hit there as well. Eventually you'll get to the boss where we learn the most important lesson of all, at least for the early game, and that is how to guard counter. So you're basically going to hold down L1, wait for someone to attack you, and then when they bounce off your shield, then you're going to tap R2, and that's going to inflict a heavy stance breaking attack to them, which you can then follow up with a critical hit to kill them. And that one move is all you have to do to kill the first pseudo-boss here in the game. And essentially that's been a whole big circle that brings you back to the starting area, and you can keep running up past the ghost and the little miniature golden tree and open up the door to continue on the rest of the way outside of this starting area. And right past the little golden set of grace there is a purple item. Purple items are rare items in the game. If you go and pick that up, it's actually a couple of multiplayer items, but one of them is a multiplayer item that's good, even if you're playing single player. That item is the Finger Severer, which I think is the item that you use if you have an NPC summon that you want to get rid of. So there are NPCs you can summon at certain boss sites. The Finger Severer is how you get rid of them if you either mistakenly summon them or you want to go back and rest at Site of Grace or something like that. It's basically an undo button for summoning an NPC helper. So we're going to ride up an elevator and open the doors in front of us and now step out into the lands between. So this is my 5th or 6th time starting this game, and every single time that view gives me chills. So after soaking that in, gonna run up and touch on the grace just to unlock it for later use, and then talk to the NPC over to the left. I'm just gonna be clicking through NPC dialogue quickly for the most part here, mainly because, well, I don't know, this isn't really a lore playthrough, just kind of a showing you how to get through things playthrough. So one of the things that helps out a lot early on is picking up every single little crafting item you run across. So kind of doing a little loop around to the back of the building here, there's a rare crafting item back there called an Arteria Leaf. Useful for some recipes. I never actually use them. I'm just going to pick it up because I'm going to sell it. The amount of money it's worth is actually decent in the beginning of the game, but anytime you see any sort of crafting item early on in the game, pick it up. Even if you're not going to use it, sell it for runes. It'll help you get a lot of levels early on. Alright, now off in the distance to the right, there's kind of a horseman in gold armor. He a dick. So the first boss in the Chapel of Anticipation taught you the lesson that it's okay to die. This guy is here to teach you the lesson it's okay to come back later. Unless you are really good at these types of games, he is going to kick your ass. Starting out at level 1 anyways, he is. He'll be easier later on. But right now, we're just going to avoid him. We're going to go to the left, and we're going to run to the church behind him, and we'll come back and get our revenge against him later. So inside the church, couple things. There's a little anvil, and we're going to pick up some upgrade materials on there. Use those to upgrade weapons, shields, and your casting implements. And you can upgrade them a little bit at that little anvil right there. You'll be able to upgrade them more later on, but there you could get things up to the +3 level. Then Santa Merchant over here, his name's Kale. He can help you out with a few other things later on in the game, but we're just going to buy some things from him right now. Now, because we did the tutorial, we came out of the entry area with a little bit of money, so we can buy both a crafting kit and a cracked pot. So now that'll bring us up to 4 pots total that we can use for ammunition purposes. Then we're going to go touch the grace to activate it and just take a seat for a second. I don't think I actually need to heal here. I just get in the habit of doing that. So, he has 2 more cracked pots available for purchase, and I kind of really want to get those, you know, kind of start off with 3. I want 3 more. Like I said, we'll be using those as consumable weapons later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run around and pick up a few more things to help with that. So right outside at the base of a crucifixion victim here in front of this church, lovely church by the way, is a golden rune that we can pick up and sell to him. There's lots of these little golden runes. They're money. Just think of them as that. You can use them either to buy things or to level up your character. Works both ways. Keep an eye out for glowing skulls on the ground wherever you go as well too. Those always have the lowest level of golden runes in them, which early on are fantastic for, again, leveling up and buying things. Roll into them or attack them with your weapon to break them over and steal the rune brains from them. Then we can run back to Kale, sell those runes we picked up, and get those last 2 cracked pots, bringing us to a total of 6. So I take a really quick glance at the item crafting menu here to see what I can make to put in those pots. You only start off with a couple recipes. Fire pots are one of them, and you can use those with the cracked pots and basically make grenades that you can throw around. And the 2 ingredients you need for those are smoldering butterflies and mushrooms, and I don't have any of those yet, so we'll keep an eye out for those as we're walking around here. Mushrooms are usually on the ground, just like glowing white spots. Go check out any glowing white spots. Sometimes they're mushrooms. And smoldering butterflies are usually around campfires and things like that, so look around anything that looks like fire and you'll usually be able to pick up smoldering butterflies. So this next bit here is essentially an extension of the tutorial area, at least that's what I consider it. You have a few soldiers up here you can take out either by sneaking up and backstabbing them or by doing what I did there, which is guard countering. And as you of course remember from the tutorial boss, guard countering, you just hold down L1, wait for them to attack, and when they attack you, you press R2 when they bounce off to, hit them real hard. The hitting them real hard breaks their stance, and when their stance broken, you tap R1 to do a crit. Note that I'm also picking up every single little crafting item along the way here. They aren't worth much individually, but you get a lot of them, and you can sell them for a decent amount of runes early on to help yourself level up or to buy things. More soldiers ahead here. I've been sneaking up on them and just backstabbing them by pressing R1 to essentially one-shot them. As we continue ahead to this kind of like northy sort of direction here, eventually you're going to see a large camp here full of guards. We are going to take that on pretty shortly here, but first we're going to run up and grab a grace right by it. There are graces on either end of it. I'm grabbing the one over to the left here, but there's another one on the right side of the camp as well. Either one works for this.
Greetings, traveler from beyond the fog. I am Melina. I offer you an accord. Have you heard of the finger? They serve the 2 fingers, but you...
Alright, and like I said, it doesn't matter which grace you do this at. That cutscene will show up regardless of where you rest at. And the long story short is that this lady is making you the god of Limgrave by giving you a horse. Oh, and you can level up now too. Not quite ready to level up, but we are going to use that horse. It does make you very OP relative to the content in this area if you learn how to use it. So very quickly, gonna put it on the pouch. You can kind of go over to the right, get rid of that mimic item that's over there, and replace that with the horse whistle. And then anytime you press Y and up, you're gonna Y and up on the D-pad. You're gonna summon your horse and become a, roving engine of chaos. And what I mean by that is you can essentially now kite people very quickly. Just run alongside them, hold down R2 or R1, depending upon what side of the horse you want to attack on, and do these swipe attacks where you can essentially clear a lot of content without getting into any danger yourself. That mostly works on trash mobs, not so much on bosses, but it helps you clear a lot of the easier enemies pretty quickly.
This tiny golden, this light. But now, you can see the rays of... Upon the cliff, a demigod. If the rays and the Elden as an ally pray to face the... Shall I turn? Let my hand share them with me.
Now you get to watch me stumble around for a little bit here. I ran back to the church here where Kale is, and I'm trying to make someone who appears at this church at night show up to give me the next kind of helper item here that gives you a big power boost here in the beginning. And I completely forgot how to do that. It's that you have to fast travel to the church at night, which we'll get to that later. So I kind of give up for the moment, go to Kale, sell a bunch of stuff, and use that for our first level up. And with our first several level ups here, they are all going to be going into strength. And that is because there's a very good weapon and a very good shield in those ruins at the beginning that require a strength of 16. So we're going to try and get that up to 16 as fast as we can. So now I'm going to correctly do the way to make the person show up at the Church of LA by fast traveling back to the Gatefront Ruins site of Grace and then hopping right back while it's nighttime to the Church of LA. And that's going to make our friendly little giant-hatted witch show up. And by friendly, she's really, really evil. But she's going to help us out here with a bell that helps us summon spirit ashes, which is essentially what makes most of the bosses in the game substantially easier. And we'll kind of, when we get to those, back to those Gamefront ruins over there, I'll show you how that little bell works and how to summon some things to help with the fight in there. So the first order of business is within these ruins we are going to get a better weapon and a better shield, because the spear and shield we start out with are they're trash weapons. So right at the end of this little encampment on the left, there's a little wagon. Anytime you see one of these wagons, you want to check the back of them. They usually have chests in them. And this particular chest has a good starter greatsword in it that is going to be the weapon we're going to be working towards using over the next couple of level ups here. So we're going to sneak up behind that guard, backstab him, and pick up that weapon to make it our own. So the next object we're going to get is we're going to target Farm Brass Shield. So I'm sneak attacking this guy here who has this kind of golden triangular shield in his offhand. That's the shield we want to get to start out with. So throughout the camp there's several guards carrying that in their offhand. And we're going to go around murder hoboing them to take their stuff and make it ours. it is a random drop, right? There is no guaranteed drop for the brass shield, I don't think. So it's a matter of luck in terms of how long and how many of these guys you're going to have to kill to get it. If you don't get it on a single clear of the camp, go rest at the Grace, they'll respawn, come back. I get really lucky here, and one of the first guys drops it. That almost never happens. Usually it takes at least a few tries to get one to drop, but I'm not going to complain too much. I also picked up a map fragment. They're almost always at the bottom of little pillars like that. I think they always are. But that gives you a map of the area now that's kind of unlocked as we kind of, well, we have a map. Maps are helpful. You get it. And of course, just to be superfluous overkill, another guy drops a brass shield. Yeah, completely random, just really good luck. Gonna keep sneaking around the camp a little bit. Far off in the right down there, past a torch-wielding guard, there's another wagon that has another weapon in the back of it. It's a flail. It's not so good, but we can sell it, so we're gonna grab it. General rule, if you don't think you're gonna use a weapon, or if you try it out and you don't like it, there's no reason to hang on to it. Just sell it. You can't buy it back, so make sure you're sure. But items like that, I just sell, and, you know, it's just more, effectively more experience you can use for leveling up. Now, straight ahead, off glowing in the distance, we're going to go up and tag the Grace that's on the other side of the camp. This is the one I mentioned earlier on, where you can choose a Grace at either side of the camp. This is the other one. We're just going to go touch it just so that we have that unlocked for future reference. But what we are going to do now is try out the shiny new sword we picked up. Now, we don't have enough strength to one-hand this weapon, but we can two-hand it. So what we do is we go and we equip it, and we press Y and R1, and that two-hands the weapon. That way we have enough strength to wield it successfully. And we're going to try out its Ash of War, Stamp Upward Cut, which is pretty good against humanoids, on kind of like the first tough enemy in this camp. There's the little knight patrolling at one of the ends here. He's a lot harder than the standard little soldiers that are running about here. And what Stamp Upward Cut does is you press L2 to activate the Ash of War, and then you follow that up with an R2, which does a heavy hit that sends humanoids flying up into the air. And even if it doesn't send someone flying up into the air, it does a ton of stance damage to break people's stance easily. But what's really nice is that when you press that L2, you get what's called Hyper Armor. In this game, your attacks are interruptible. And what that little bit of Hyper Armor does is it makes it so that even if you're swinging your weapon and you get hit, you'll still follow through. Oh, in a lot of cases, you'll follow through and still be able to hit with your own attack. Very handy against hard-hitting foes like this little knight. Now, when you trade blows like that, you're going to take some damage, so sometimes you'll have to fall back and heal, but it's better than constantly being interrupted. And because it does the flip up into the air, it kind of gives you a little bit of almost like crowd control. And for this particular knight, you just hit him with it twice, you've broken his stance, and then you can just, you know, hit him with a R1 critical to take him out. And for the next little bit of our tutorial here, we're going to call in reinforcements. We're going to use the Spirit Bell that Ronnie gave us earlier to summon the Spirit Ashes she gave us, which are a trio of wolves that we can summon in certain areas. When you see the gravestone that's gray over to the left, we can summon Spirit Ash companions to help in combat. Usually that's in a boss area or in an area where you're heavily outnumbered, like we are here. So to summon those specific Spirit Ashes, I put the wolves in my pouch over to the right, so now I just need to press Y and right on the D-pad to summon them. And when I try to do it here, I fail because I don't have enough FP. FP is like mana or magicka in this game. It's the blue bar in the top left. And when I was using my Ash of War, Stamp Upward Cut, I used some of my FP, so I no longer have enough FP to summon the wolves, so I take a drink from my blue flask and I can get them summoned. Chaos then ensues as the wolves go and help us take down this big group of people. Now, you do not want to draw a huge group of people to attack you all at once. if you're bad at this game like I am, having like 3 enemies come at you before you've got like large area attacks is a bad idea. So the wolves are gonna basically keep these guys busy so we can pick them off one at a time, and they'll help us take care of this little crowd here. Then we can go in and, you know, between jumping attacks and sneak attacks, take out the rest of the trash mobs inside the little fort area here. And then immediately next to where all those soldiers were are a staircase downstairs. Anytime you're in a ruins area, there's usually one of these. It will go down into an area that sometimes it has a boss, sometimes it has a treasure chest, sometimes it has something more devious than a treasure chest. But in this case, it is a treasure chest that has something very important in it, which is a whetstone knife. And a whetstone knife is what will allow you to change the ashes of ore on normal weapons. So normal weapons, not all weapons have a changeable ash of ore. The ones that do, you can use this whetstone knife to, so instead of like if we wanted something other than stamp upward cut on that greatsword we have, we can use the whetstone knife to change that to something else once we find appropriate abilities we want to put on it. Very handy. There are different types of knives later on that can then change what attributes that weapon gets better towards. So you can make a weapon, in addition to changing its ash of ore, you can make it attack better via faith than with strength, stuff like that. But this is just the basic version here. And lastly, we are going to level up using the experience that we gained from that little camp there. So I'm going to head back to the Church of Ella, and we're going to level up once to get our strength up. And then I look at my experience and notice that we're pretty close to leveling up again. So I'm going to hop over to Kale, go through my inventory, sell everything that I don't need. I'm going to sell that flail, going to sell the extra brass shield. There was an ash of ore we picked up with the wet blade. I know I'm not going to use it, so I sell it. And just any kind of crafting materials that I'm not going to use, I just go ahead and sell those to get enough experience slash souls slash runes to get me up to the next level. And we're going to continue working on getting our strength up towards 16, which is where we can start one-handing that fancy sword we picked up. So that brings us to level 10, and that is where I'm going to call a wrap on this first episode of this. I'm going to be breaking this into multiple parts just for ease and cadence of uploading this to YouTube. And this is kind of a slow, deliberate march towards Margit. And we're going to spend several hours exploring both Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula, doing kind of like a greatest hits of the bosses and the dungeons that I like to explore in this area before going after him, as well as picking up useful gear, getting useful upgrades that will make that fight a walk in the park. So if you like this video, like and subscribe, and also feel free to come back and check out when the next episode of this voyage drops. Not sure how quickly I'm going to be getting these edited and uploaded, but hopefully fairly regularly over the next few weeks we'll have this whole thing up there. Thanks for listening, and bye.